So to start this question off, the first thing that we notice is that the numerator, the part that's above the main division line, is two separate fractions. So what we want to do is we want to ultimately get this so that it is one fraction over one fraction, and then we can flip and multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator. But for now we cannot do that because we have these two separate fractions. It's not just one single fraction above the main division line. So because of that, I'm going to start off by getting an LCD for the top part above the main division line. Now, to get our LCD, we write down each of the individual denominators. So I have an a plus h denominator, and then I have an a. Now, because these are two unique factors, that means that our LCD is going to have to include both of them. We're going to have an a plus h as one factor, and then an a as the other factor. All right, so we'll go over here with the goal of trying to get this as our LCD, an a plus h times an a. So if we look at the first fraction, we see that the first fraction has the a plus h, so we need to only multiply by a over a. Now, the second fraction does not have the a plus h, so we multiply by a plus h over a plus h, and then it already has the a. So now we have an LCD, and once we have an LCD, we can write that with our common denominator. So the common denominator for above the main division line, we have an h here, but if we just focus on that part that's above the main division line, we'll have the LCD of a times a plus h, and then in the numerator, we'll have a times 1, so a. And then this minus sign has to get distributed to each term. So it has to get distributed to the a and the h. And again, the times 1 isn't going to impact what we get. So we just can say it's minus a minus h. All right. So now we continue to focus our attention on the numerator, the part that's above the main division line, and say, what can we cross out? Now, do note you cannot cross out this a with this a, and the reason why you cannot do that is because of the subtraction sign. And subtraction is not going to be undone by division. So there's no crossing out of this a with this a. What we can do, though, is we can say a minus a will cross to give us 0. So what we are left over with is negative h over a times a plus h over h. Now, remember that the goal when we have a complex fraction is that we're trying to get it as one fraction over one fraction. So now we are finally there, because when we look above the main division line, we see that we do have one fraction. And when we look below the main division line, we can force the issue of getting one fraction by putting this h over 1. So now we have one fraction over one fraction, and that means we can flip that lovely denominator. All right, so if I flip the denominator, I will still have the negative h over a times a plus h multiplied now by the flip of this denominator, which is 1 over h. Now, if you just immediately multiply straight across, you would have negative h over a times a plus h times h. Now, at this point, the multiplication that is in the denominator is going to be undone by division. So this h and this h can cross out, and we are left with negative 1 over a times a plus h. And that is our simplification of this complex fraction. Again, remember the goal is to get it as one fraction over one fraction, then you can flip that denominator. But in order to get that one fraction over one fraction, we first have to get this LCD, simplify, and then we're ready to flip it.